I am so glad you are here. It is Energy Sunday, and I wanted to address a topic that came up recently when I was talking about Reiki with someone. And it's where does that energy come from? Because they commented that they'd had some Reiki training, but they weren't done with their Reiki training yet. There was more for their journey to unfold. And they talked about having not done a lot of Reiki recently because they found it draining. And that brought me to the idea that, well, but Reiki isn't draining. And I started to wonder about that training. Reiki is not energy you create or that you produce. Reiki is the energy of the universe or of whatever deity you believe in, coming through you. You are a conduit for that energy. And then that energy goes to the person it's intended for, even if it's meant for you. If you're doing Reiki for yourself, that also counts. The energy isn't energy you're creating, though. The whole point of it is that it is energy that passes through the Reiki practitioner to the intended recipient. So if you're finding your Reiki practice to be tiring or draining or in some way a negative part of your life, I'm going to suggest that you find yourself a new Reiki teacher and maybe even consider redoing your Reiki first degree, your Reiki second degree if you've gotten that far, or even your Reiki third. I've had students who have opted to retrain, perhaps because it had been a while, perhaps because they wanted to just align themselves with a personal teacher. It's always their choice. I've never encouraged anyone to do it, but with this conversation with this wonderful, honestly wonderful person, I probably will be encouraging them to consider redoing their training because Reiki energy should always leave the practitioner calmer, better off than they did before they did the Reiki exercise, than before they sent that energy, that pass through of energy to the intended recipient. If it's draining, consider retraining. That's my honest take on it. If you find it exhausting in any way, shape, or form, you'll need to look at how you're doing it. This is very much like having a yoga practice and then saying that I always leave with this one muscle cramping. And you're asked what poses you're doing, and though that's not a muscle that's engaged in that pose, which means you're tensing a muscle that's not meant to be tense for this part of the practice. The same is true with Reiki. If you're leaving with a cramp in your energy field, feeling drained, feeling anything negative, you're tensing something that's not meant to be tensed during the process of letting that Reiki energy pass through you. So be cautious and be forewarned. If you find Reiki work difficult, consider retraining. Especially if you've never had a personal teacher, if you've never taken a class in person with somebody where you could feel their energy and how they do Reiki, because that can have a big impact on how you choose to practice going forward. It would be one of the reasons why you might choose to go get in-person Reiki training, even if you've already been through extensive online Reiki training. That's my big thought for you for the day is make sure you're doing that Reiki pass through of energy well. It should benefit not just the recipient, but also the Reiki practitioner who is the conduit for that universal life force, that energy, whether you call it God, whether you call it goddess, whether you call it the universe, whether you call it life force or anything else. Think about that beneficent, procreating, beautiful energy. It would never harm you passing through you. It would never drain you passing through you. Know that even as it passes through you to primarily help the person you're working on, that you are also part of the process and you benefit from the work when it's done well. So with that, I will leave you for the day. If you have any questions about Reiki training, I'm here in Minneapolis, Magus Books and Herbs, and online at magusbooks.com. You can reach me by phone
You can reach me by email, liz@Vegas Healing Center, or 612-379-7669. And you can find those things also on our website at vegasbooks.com. Have a wonderful, peaceful, energy-filled week, and I will see you next time. Blessed be.